Hey, this is Double R. I wanted to tell you that Anchor by Spotify is a great and easy way to make a podcast with everything you need and all in one place. Anchor has the tools to allow you to record, edit your podcast straight from your phone or your computer. When hosting with Anchor, you can distribute your podcast to all listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Best of all, it's totally free. So go down the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. This is the Let's Roll Podcast with your host, Double R. Well. Welcome back. It's your host that rolls the most, Double R, and this is the Let's Roll Podcast. Today's episode is faith. How I feel when it comes to religion, faith, churches, and much more. This might be a hot topic. This might be controversial. This might upset some people. But you're just going to have to listen to find out right after this. Let's talk about faith, religion, churches, and that. Just to be upfront with you, my family, or at least growing up, we were not necessarily church-going, Bible-thumping people. Growing up to a certain age, the only time I remember being in church was weddings and funerals. I went to Sunday school a couple of times. But to go to church on a regular basis, we did not do that. Part of the reason was my dad was a police officer in Houston, Texas. And his really only day off was Sunday. And so that was one of the reasons why we didn't go to church. Religion was always around. Aunts, uncles, grandmothers, other family went to church regularly, and on occasion when we were with those other family members, we would go to church if we were around them on Sunday. But I will say this: I believed in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe things happen for a reason. I believe God allows things to happen. I have my own relationship with my faith and religion. So I never had the desire or need or want to go to church on a regular basis. I've had family members, that I will say forced their belief in their religion or faith, try to force it. That didn't rub me the right way, we'll just say it like that. So I've always been kind of iffy on faith and religion and going to church. I have a story about when I was younger, or in high school. There was a girl that I really, really liked. Oh man, I had a crush on her. We went to homecoming together, so if you're listening to this, you know who you are. And no way am my intent in telling the story is to bring any negative to you. I know where your heart was when in this story, so it's not a bad thing. It was just a funny story to me, and so it's no secret. I'm disabled. I'm in a wheelchair. I have a bone disease. I've said it pretty much on every episode I've ever done so far. Probably will continue to mention it periodically because not everybody's going to go back and listen to all the episodes. So bear with it. So this girl that I really liked and really cared about, and like I said, we went to homecoming together, but we were never boyfriend or girlfriend or anything. It never went that far. I hope she realized that I did have a crush on her and didn't like her. But that being said, she asked me, she encouraged me to go to one of her church groups, like a youth type group that was held at her house. And and I didn't know this at the time, and I don't know if it was this way at the time or not. But her stepdad became a pastor of the church they went to. I don't know if he was always the pastor or he ended up becoming one. But anyway, they had this youth group, and I went and hung out with them, blah, blah, blah. Nothing really happened there. It was later on that she asked me a question. She said, "Do you believe in healing? Because I really like for you to come to my church." And I said, "Well, what do you mean in healing?" Like, I kind of knew what she was saying, but didn't know what she was saying. And I said, "Well, what do you mean healing?" And she goes, "Well, my church does healings. We heal people at my church." I said, "Well, if you're talking about me coming to your church and whoever puts their hands on me and prays for me and it tells me to get up to walk or stand or whatever, no, I'm not doing that, because my belief, even younger and definitely now, is if God wanted me to walk, then it would happen without going to a church, without somebody putting their hands on me. I'm not saying that's not necessarily saying that was God's way of trying to get me into that church so he could heal me, and I rejected it. Maybe. But I just don't believe in that. I don't believe that happens that way. That's just my belief. That's no offense to anybody that believes that or has experienced it or whatever. I kind of look at that particular aspect of a religion as being a scam. Not to say it was, just that's the way I look at it. So I just kind of went, no, I don't know. Like, I'm not coming to do that. I'll come to church, hang out, get some of the word maybe, but I'm not gonna think that I'm gonna go up on stage, have somebody put their hand on me and tell me, in Jesus' name, get up and walk. No, it ain't happening. Not gonna happen, will never happen. So I rejected it. Also, growing up, I always had people that wanted to come up and pray for me. And I've mentioned that in other episodes, that they would just come up and say, "Hey, can I pray for your child?" Or "Can I pray for you?" And I always thought, like, why are you praying for me? Like, what is it about me that you're praying for? Like, are you praying for me to get healed? Because the way I looked at it, God made me in his own image. And if he made me in his own image, then why do you have a problem with me in my image? Like, I don't look at my disability as a negative. I look at it as it is what it is. It's who I am. Like, it's a part of me. It's about me. I don't look at it as negative. Everybody has something weird. They got a bad hip, bad foot, whatever. They accept it. So I have accepted it. I don't have a problem with it. So I don't mind religion. I don't mind faith. My biggest problem is going to church or churches. And I'll talk about that right after this. Okay, why I don't like going to church. Why is that? Well, it wasn't until I was in my 30s. I want to say 35, I think. Yeah, I think it was 35. I had started to go to church with my mom and my dad. They started going to the Woodlands Church in the Woodlands, Texas. And then that church kept growing and growing and growing. And it got to be just this massive church. And so we stopped going to that, and then we started going to a smaller church that was held in a Christian school. And so I went off and on. When they were going to Woodlands, I went a couple of times here and there. It wasn't until I started working for a company. The owner was heavy religious faith, always pumping Christian music at the office, missing that. And I slowly started to come around. Slowly started saying, "All right, let me give this religion thing a chance." So my dad got me a Bible, and then my mom bought me a Bible on CD because I'm dyslexic and have a very hard time reading and really uh, uh, retaining what I'm reading. So, along with having a real Bible or an actual Bible and the CD, I could listen to it while I was looking at what it was saying, and that helped a little bit. So, I started to get more and more into it. So then I started going to church with my dad and my mom. For the most part, my church experience has been very little, but the experiences I've had, I've noticed one common thing about church. And no offense to anybody that goes to church. There are some fake people at churches. And what I mean by that, they're fake as in they friendly to your face. I don't like the feeling that I go somewhere where I'm supposed to be accepted. And I'm not saying I wasn't accepted, but I don't like the feeling going there going, yeah, you're smiling at me, you're being friendly to me, but it's like nothing's behind that. Like there is no general concern or like or, there's nothing behind that. There's just, I'm doing it to do it type situation. I just feel that in general. And I also feel, once again, not trying to offend anybody, but I also feel like there are people out there that use religion to look down upon people. There's a lot of hypocrisy or hypocrites in churches and in religion itself. And you can find all these contradictions in people and how they pick and choose what they want to say about their faith or their religion or about the Bible. I'm not saying I'm a Bible thumping, reader. Like I don't know that much about the Bible. I've listened to it. I picked up on a few things here and there. I will say this: at first, I don't know how many verses or chapters or whatever you want to call it are boring as hell. No pun intended. There's nothing in there that, in those first few things in the Bible, that why are you telling me who it was? I don't know. Again, I don't remember what the verse or the part of the Bible is in. I know it's in the beginning, but there's this whole thing about who was born, who they married, how many kids they had, how long they lived, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. Like, there's no story to it, no nothing. Like, I don't care about any of that. But again, trying not to get off the subject here. So going to church, to me, for some people, that's a must. They just, I gotta go to church, I gotta be with church people and blah, blah, blah. I looked at church like this. If you needed a recharge on your faith and your religion, then go to church. If not, I don't see church necessary. And the reason I say I don't see it necessary is if I believe in God, I have my own relationship with God, and I'd rather go out into the world and not necessarily try, but be in more situations where I can speak about what my faith, my religion, my love for God has done for me. And I want to do it in a way that I'm not forcing it on anybody. I'm not looking at somebody going, if you don't stop that, you're going to hell, you need to get Jesus, blah, blah, blah. No. That's nothing I want to do. I don't do that. That is judging. That is trying to force your faith and your religion on somebody. I don't do that. I don't want to do that. If you came up to me and you said, hey, Double R, do you believe in God? I'd say, yeah, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I have a relationship with him, and it's my relationship. I pray from time to time. I don't pray every day, but I do pray when I feel like I need to pray. I don't believe the negative things about what people will say about God or religion. Like I don't believe that God, like people will say this. Why did God take away Gmail? God didn't do that. Like I don't I don't I don't necessarily believe that God just takes people away. I might I my more of my belief is that God allowed whatever happened to Gmail to happen, right? Like he allowed it, but he didn't do it. He didn't stop it. So I think things happen for a reason. Yes, as human beings, we want to question why did this happen? Why did this? Why did that? But sometimes it's not for us I'm not saying don't question it. You should question anything. If you have a weird feeling about something, like you want to understand why people are Christians or Muslims or whatever religion they are, then question it. Hey, why do you believe what you believe? What makes it, that way for you? Okay? That's a given. You should question things. This doesn't make sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. And somebody will say, well, it's not necessarily have to be logical, it's just about faith. And that's true. We gotta have faith in things. We gotta have faith in things that will work or not work, or the right decision will be made, and whatever goes on in life. But when it comes down to church, I just don't feel that. I'm not saying church is not needed. I'm saying that for me, church is not needed for me. I don't need to go to church. Now, if I found somebody in my life that I'm going to share the rest of my life with, and they want to go to church, and I would go. But I would make it very clear. That, hey, I'm going for you. I'm not going necessarily for me. Like, I'll go and I'll be cordial. I'll sit there and take what I can take in and reject what I don't believe or whatever. All I'm trying to get at is that church is not my number one. My number one is just having a relationship with God and Jesus on my own terms. I don't want to be forced to go to church. I don't want to be forced to believe something that I don't truly believe in. So that's why I don't like church. Now I'm going to get more into my opinions about all of this right after this. Okay, so I've touched on religion, faith, churches, what I've experienced, what I haven't experienced, whatever. I'm going to touch on church again, and I'm going to touch on it. Well, maybe not church. I think churches can get way too big. These big super churches. I think the bigger the church, the less it, or how do I want to say this? The bigger the church, the less of a church it really is. I'm not saying you can't get anything out of a big church, but the few churches that I've been in big ones, I've been in small ones. And I would prefer the small one over the big one, because the small one is more intimate. I believe you can get more out of it than going to this super big church. And I think the bigger churches are going to have people in there that are from a certain demographic. Like, the bigger the church, the less of the, I'm going to say, common or poor people that will be in that church. And if they're going to that church, they're going to, in my opinion, for the prestige of it. Like, you might barely be able to put food on your table, but you're going to go to the big church because, it looks better if you go to a big church. No. To me, a smaller church is better. Smaller churches will give you a more intimate teaching and in a better, at least a better way, in my opinion, to receive the word. Because when you get bigger churches, they're going to go for the glitz, the glamour. the more entertainment, the more blah blah blah. Like I live in Houston. Well, I live close to Houston, Texas. It has one of the biggest churches around, which is what's it called? Lake. I forget the name of it, but it has Joel Osteen as the pastor, and it's the biggest church in the area. I have no desire going to that church, because I don't think you can receive the same message there as you could receive it in a smaller, more intimate church. So I guess I have a bad taste in my mouth for churches. Maybe I never found the right one. I saw a small church grow into a big church, and I saw that it was more fun and wanted to go say a little bit more when they were small versus when they started to get big, and it outgrows it. Like, believe me, it's cool to see a church grow, but at a certain point, you gotta know when to pull back a little bit and not let it grow as big. But that's kind of hard because churches are somewhat businesses too, and they need to make money, and that's a whole nother subject. Churches and their money. But again, if a church is really big, I don't think you get the same message. I guess the other problem I had going to church was, like, how many times do you have to preach on the same exact thing? Like, I don't know. To me, it was just like, we hear, I mean, and I get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it. Like, there's only so much in the Bible, but man, I don't know. My attention span when it comes to listening to someone speak is very, like, I don't concentrate very well on that. Like, I get bored with it. Like, okay, I want to move on. So I'm going to tell a story about, and I think I might have told it before in an episode, maybe not, I don't remember. But this is around the time that I started going to church with my mom and dad and started really listening, listening to the Bible on CD and following it along in the Bible. And just, I got into religious movies. I have my own little collection of, religious-based movies that I like. When I was married also, we got in we got into a lot more religious music when I was married than before. But now that I'm not married and I've lost my dad, my dad's not around anymore, and my mom was never really a church going person either, so I don't listen to Christian music as much as I used to. I still have my favorites, but anyway, this little story I wanted to tell you was about me realizing or figuring out, I should say, why, as far as religion and the Bible and Christianity goes, I realized, or I found out, why I am the way I am as far as the disability. I used to joke with my dad, I'm like, Dad, if God made me in his image, and I would look at my dad when I said that and go, what happened? Like, I'm looking at, pointing to myself, like, what happened? Like, God is supposed to be all perfect and glorious and stuff, and look at me. What is this? Well, I was saying it as a joke, but my dad was like, it's not that fun, it's not funny. And he tried to be serious about it. Well, going back to the company I worked for that used to play Christian music and the owner prayed about all the big transactions that we were going to be doing or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of religious and faith was incorporated into his business. I came across a Bible verse, and man, I wish I could remember it, but it's basically a verse in the Bible that talks about Jesus and his disciples are walking along, and they come across a man that's blind. And the disciples ask Jesus, Why is this man blind? Was it because his parents sinned or because he sinned? And Jesus' reply was neither. Neither one sinned for him to be blind. He was born this way because that way God, I'm trying to trying to say this by memory, but it's not going to be perfect. Basically, he was born this way and was blind so the work of God could be shown through him. And at that, a few minutes later or whatever, Jesus goes over and puts his hand and heals him so he can see. So I took that as, wow, that makes sense to me. Not in the fact that somebody's going to come around or Jesus is going to come over and heal me, but that wasn't about the power of God being shown through him because he was blind. The way I interpreted it and looked at it was, at least for myself, was that I can show people that even though I am born with a disability, I am not disabled in life. I'm disabled physically, but in life I'm not necessarily disabled because there's a lot of things I can do. There's a lot of things I can show people that, religious or not, like, this hasn't stopped me. My disability hasn't stopped me from living. My disability didn't stop me from dating, from getting married, from driving a car, getting a job, living. My disability hasn't stopped me from that. There have been obstacles, but there hasn't. And for someone to say, well, how does that link back to being religious or having faith or whatever? Simple. I was born, I was given 3 days to live, and come June, I'll be 52 years old. If that doesn't show you that God allowed me to come into this world this way to show that I could pursue, persevere. I know I didn't say that very well, but you get what I'm saying. I have met every challenge he's thrown in my way. And again, I use that loosely, saying he threw it in my way. But it is very possible God puts challenges in your way. We want to blame it on the devil, but I'm tired of giving the devil credit for everything. So, but I've advanced, I've lived, I've succeeded in a lot of things. And it's by faith, religion, and sometimes going to church that I've accomplished all of that. And it's all because of God and Jesus' love for me and giving me the ability to do it. So, I wasn't born this way because of a sin of my mother or my father. I was born this way to show you what life is when it comes to having a disability, and showing you that just because you can't see, just because you can't hear, just because you can't walk, just because you can't even move, will not stop you from living your life. And hopefully you have some kind of relationship with whatever religion or God that you choose. So that is the one verse that spoke to me and still speaks to me today, that it answered that question. If he made me in his own image, then what happened? Well, he did make me in his own image, because God has all kinds of images. They're all different shapes, sizes, colors, religion. There's one God. I mean, you might call him by a different name. There's not just one religion. Religion is a man-made thing. God is God. And he could be Allah, Muhammad. He could be any name you want to call him. But he's made everybody in his image. So if he has an image of disability, he has an image of an able-bodied person, he has an image of a black person, a white person, a Mexican, any Asian, any of those. So that's how I came to understand why I am the way I am and how I know that God has kept me on this planet to show all of you nothing is unachievable. There's nothing in your life that you can't achieve if you want to, if you have the faith to. I hope you learned something from this episode. I'm not the best Bible scholar. I'm not the best churchgoer, but I do have faith. I have my faith in God and Jesus and my love for that and my love for everybody. There is one thing that I constantly tell people. I do not hate anything or anyone. I'll dislike you. I'll disassociate with you. But I don't hate. And I wish there was less of that. So, with that being said, make sure you go and check out our website at www.theletsrollpodcast.com. And I hope that you have liked this month's episodes. They were supposed to be all about love and things related to the love month. And I hope you enjoyed it. With that being said, as always, till next time, see ya.
Hey, this is Jenny Heaney, and you're listening to the Let's Roll podcast with host Double R. Make sure you're following us on all of social media. Find the links below in the description or at theletsrollpodcast.com.